we're going to start the introduction of slope and rate of change, specifically in graphs. So before I really get started, I want you to pause the video and I want you to answer these three questions, A, B, and C, based off of this picture. So go ahead and pause the video. So what measurement of the ramps do the ramps have in common? So if I look at my two ramps, they have the vertical height in common, or if you just wrote down 8 feet, that's fine too. So they both have that 8 feet in common. What's different between the two ramps? That is the horizontal distance, or if you just put 8 and 12, that's fine too. So one is 12 feet long, one is 8 feet long. And then looking at these two ramps, which one appears steeper? The one that would, if you actually went down on a skateboard, which one would go faster? And that would be B, because it has less distance or space horizontally. So all I'm saying is just that we have a smaller space right here compared to all of this space over here. So we have to make a shorter drop or a quicker drop down. So the idea of this ramp, whether it be a skateboard ramp or a wheelchair ramp, it is dealing with slope. So slope is a value used to describe the steepness of a line. Slope is the ratio of the vertical change compared to the horizontal change. And instead of using the phrase vertical and horizontal, a lot of the times we'll just use the shortcut phrase of rise over run. Rise deals with up and down, run deals with left and right. Slope is equal to the rate of change of the graph and the linear relationship. So over the next week or so, we're going to practice slope. And one of the things that we have to practice is the different types. So looking at different graphs, we have to determine if it's one of 4 types. So the way that we read a graph is I always start with the left-hand side and I trace my line. And since my pen is moving up, that means that it's showing an increase, and that is showing a positive slope. Same thing on this one. If I start on the left-hand side, just like how I read a sentence, I'm going to go down. So my pen is moving down, which shows that decrease, and that would be a negative slope. So my slope number would actually show a negative sign out in front. A horizontal line has a slope of 0, so just the number 0. And a vertical line is called an undefined slope. And we'll talk more about that in class as we practice this more. Okay? So these are the 4 different types. So let's practice actually finding the slope from any given graph. So first thing we need to do is find 2 points on the graph line. So if I'm looking at my graph line, this diagonal line, I'm trying to find points that cross the grid marks perfectly. So I know that it crosses at 0, 0. It can cross at this 1, 2, this 2, 4, and then if I find the pattern, I can just follow up and find all my points. So I really just need 2 of them, but I went ahead and plotted all of them. So now we're going to draw a right triangle to count the rise, which is my up and down, and my run, which is my left and right spaces between the points. So I can draw a line. I can choose any points. I'm just going to choose these 2, and I'm going to draw a right triangle here to connect those 2 dots. So looking at my scale, my numbers that on my x-axis are going by 1s. My numbers on my y-axis are going by 1s as well. So every time that I count a line, I'm just counting by 1s. So my rise talks about going up 1, 2 spaces. So I'm going to go up 2 numbers, and then I'm going to go to the right 1 number. So my rise is a positive 2. My run is a positive 1. So I just counted my numbers that I moved on my graph, and then I can set up a ratio or a fraction using those two numbers with my rise on top of my fraction and my run on the bottom. And then my last step is to just double check to make sure that my number or my slope is positive or negative based on the graph. So as my pen is moving up to trace the line, that means my slope is positive, and that's what I show here. Let's turn the paper over and we'll try some examples. So looking at this first one, I can see that my x values go by ones, my y values go by ones as well, and then if I trace my line, my pen or my marker is going to be going down, so that I know that my slope is going to show a negative slope here in a little bit. So now I'm going to find my points. I can see my points are going to land on the grid perfectly at these particular points. And then I can draw my right triangle. So I can go from one point to another point. I'm going to move down. And since I'm counting by ones, I went down one number. And then I went to the right. And again, I'm going by ones. So I went by two numbers on this one. I started at a 2. And then I moved to a 4. Since I'm dealing with rise over run, my rise, anytime that I'm moving down toward the negative numbers or getting smaller, I'm going to show that with a -1. And then I'm going to move to the right. So that would be -1/2. All right, on number 2, this is going to be a horizontal line. Horizontal lines are always going to be a 0 slope. And that is because if I choose any 2 points, my rise is 0 because I'm not going up or down any. But my run is however many points across. So 0 divided by 2, if I type that into a calculator, I'm always going to get 0. And then number 3. Number 3, if I look at my graph, I can see a couple of things. My x values are all going by 1 still. But my y values, if I look at them, they are counting by 3s. So every time that I move up a line, I'm really going up 3 numbers. When I look at my graph, I can see that it's a positive graph because my line is increasing. And then if I find my 2 points or any points on my grid, I can see that I'm going up and then over. But instead of counting just the lines and calling this 2, I'm going up one line, which accounts for 3 numbers. Then I'm going up another line, which accounts for another 3 numbers. So that means I'm really going up 6. I'm going up 6 numbers. So my rise is going to be 6. I'm going to go over one line. And since I'm still going by ones here, I'm still going over one number. So my run would be 1. And I would simplify that down to just 6. On number 4, I can see that my x values are still going by ones. My y values are going by ones as well. And if I trace my line from left to right like a sentence, my pen is going up. So that means that I need a positive slope here in a little bit. So I can look at my points, and I can find my points right about here on the graph. So I can choose any 2 points to draw that right triangle, and that right triangle is going to help us with the rise and the run. So from one point to another point, since I'm going by ones, I can count by ones. So 1, 2, 3. So I went up 3 numbers here. And then since my x's are going by ones as well, I can count by ones. So 1, 2. So I went to the right 2. I can leave my slope in an improper fraction. For later on, you'll just want to keep it in that improper fraction form. All right, let's look at number 5. Number 5, my x values are going by ones, so I know that I can count by ones when I'm moving left and right. And then when I'm moving up and down, I'm going to have to count by 2s because that's what my y value is going to go with. Then I can see that if I have my positive line, it's increasing. That means I'm going to have a positive slope here in a little bit. Now I can find my 2 points. Any 2 points I can find would be fine. I can draw my right triangle to show my movement from one point to another point, my slope of the line. And then if I go up, I'm not going up one line, I'm really going to be going up 2 numbers. So I'm going up 2, and then I'm going to be going to the right 4, since I'm still counting by ones here. So my rise number is positive 2. My run number is positive 4, since I'm moving up and to the right, which makes my final slope 1/2, or you could kept it as the 2/4. And then the last basic example, I can see that it's going to be a negative slope. My scale is counting by ones, so I can just count by ones whenever I move on my graph. I can see that there's a point here. If I follow along, I can see another point at this -2, 1, and another point up here. All right, so I can draw my right triangle anywhere that I can between 2 points. I know that my rise, if I go from one point to another point, I can go down here. I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, because I can count by ones. So down 4, then I'm going to go to the right 3. So my rise is going to be -4. My run is going to be a positive 3, because I went to the right. All right, number 7. Lewis thinks the slope is 1/2. Explain his mistake. So we already know that he made a mistake somewhere. We have to figure it out. We can see that the x-axis goes by ones. The y-axis goes by 5s. And we're going to have to find our points. So I can find my triangle. When I go up, I'm not going up 1. I'm really going to be going up 5 numbers from 15 to 20. So I went up 5 numbers. So my rise is 5. My run is going to be going over 1, 2 spaces, which you can still count by ones. So it's going over 2. So that is going to be my slope, 5/2 instead of this 1/2. Because Lewis forgot that his scale was going by 5. So when he saw that he was just going up 1 space, he just assumed that it was just going to be 1/2. But we have to make sure that we see those scales. All right, last one. We're talking about the amount of bagels in a bagel shop remaining after so many customers go in the store and buy some bagels. So my scale here, it looks like I could fill in 20 and 40. So these are going by 10s. And then this scale is going, it looks like, by 25s. So by understanding the scale, I'm able to find my 2 points and find my slope or my rate of change a lot faster. So from one point to another point, I'm going to go down 2 lines, which really stands for 25 and 25. So I'm going to be going down 50. So that would be -50 for my rise. And then I'm going to be going over 1 line. But in this case, each line stands for 10. So I'm going to be going over to the right 10. Now this doesn't mean a whole lot until we actually put some context to it. So my rise deals with the number of bagels. My rise deals with all of my up and down numbers. So this says that they are decreasing their amount by 50 bagels for every 10 customers. And if I reduce that down, -50 divided by 10 would be like -5/1. So they're losing, or they're selling 5 bagels for every 1 customer.